Hi everyone, welcome to Raising Vibrations with myself, Simon. Today I'm going to be creating a video and sharing with you guys some of my perspectives and opinions on the nature of astrology and the human connection. Now, what I'm going to try and complete today or accomplish today is sharing some really important facts. Or when I say facts, I mean more along the lines of like truths, okay? So let's just say truths that have been left out in terms of how astrology works and why it's such an important tool for us to actually use within this period of time of awakening and just in general, to be honest. And also sharing some of my thoughts and opinions about things that can cause mass Piscean delusions, okay? And when I say delusions, I mean like believing in something and then coming to the realization that it creates more confusion than it does actually clarity. And that's a really important thing that I've observed, with a lot of clients in the past, and also a lot of the information that is on the internet at this stage, and trying to kind of like give a very grounded perspective in it, but at the same time allow our imaginations to, in a sense, be captivated with this process. So that's what I'm going to try to do today. I'm going to try and give some principles and ideas on some themes that I've noticed and then do that. Okay. Now, obviously myself, I haven't feel like I've been really clear with that, but as I go through this list, you guys will know exactly what I'm trying to say. So let's have a look over here, right? You've got, firstly, the human condition. Now, as human beings, to me, I feel like astrology, in a sense, well, not in a sense, it is the fact, has left out the idea, the condition of the human. Like, what we've done is we've gone with this very predictive type of astrology, and we said, okay, you've got the moon in the 8th house, or you've got moon in Cancer, or you've got Mars in Gemini. And what will happen is we'll give like a general overview of the nature of what Mars in Gemini means, and most of the time it's not actually that correct. It's just a couple of sort of like definitions, and this is really bad. So the one thing I want to do firstly is that when you're watching astrology videos in itself, or you're looking at astrology, or you're trying to understand the nature of why it can be, why I take it so strongly, is that when we look at Mars in Gemini, for instance, okay, and then we include the nature of the human condition, with so many complex factors that are being denied or left out when trying to understand the nature of why Mars in Gemini would exist for anybody, okay? So what we've got to do is we've got to include that. We've got to bring it in. We've got to try and sort of say, okay, you've got Mars in Gemini in your astrology chart, and then you go, what has been my social, economic upbringing? How has my parents raised me? What has been my environment? What type of friends have I had, etc., etc. And you put all of those together and you see this conditioning pattern that is relative to personally you, okay? So you can now have two people that are literally born, let's say, for instance, 5 houses separate of each other, okay? And they are born at the same time. So they've got this Mars in Gemini signature, okay? Mars in Gemini. They both of these human beings have got this. Now, firstly, what we've got to do is we've got to acknowledge the fact that one life is not the only existence, okay? We have got many lives that we do live, and we can simply put this through by understanding the idea of reincarnation like this, okay? In order for something to be existing at this moment in time, something must have come before it to create the very reality that we're existing in right now. And so therefore, we have pre-existing lives that have set yourself up for the existing life that you have right now through the nature of this idea that I've just shared with you right now, okay? So to give another perspective to this, let's say, for instance, I'm going to take my own personal story, okay? So my soul comes into this incarnation and it has a pre-existing pattern, okay, of desiring to be recognized for something. I'm exploring the nature of contrast. I'm exploring the nature of duality. I'm exploring the nature of creation, life, what it means to be a human being. And you cannot do it just in one lifetime. It's impossible. There are so many different dynamics that are associated with it. So you can only do what you can do in this lifetime, and your soul will remember that, and you continue your process and so on. So my existing pattern was Pluto 10th house, recognized for something. Now, I could have been born into a social economic situation with a family dynamics and so on and so forth that led me to be a politician. That's one aspect of being recognized. I could then be born into another lifetime where I wanted to understand the dynamic of recognition through being an actor, being recognized for that. I can then simply come into a lifetime where I have being recognized for some medical work. Whatever it means, that recognition, because it's a very loose, it's a very strong term. What is recognition? And then the multifacets that exist, that idea exists in, will be the multi-lifetimes that I experience. And so your soul will learn through these multi-lifetimes the nature of itself relative to the theme it wants. And so reincarnation, okay, or the multi-lifetime story is then solidified in that process. Okay, it's there, it's now, that's how it's existing. So when you're looking at your astrology charts, you're looking at what stories exist within this thing. Where do I come from? What has been my pre-existing pattern? And when you start to look at it through those eyes, when you start to understand the gravity of the situation, and you see Mars in Gemini, it doesn't necessarily mean being open and curious. It means living a life where you have desired open communication, where you have desired to understand the nature of writing. You maybe have been a scribe in a previous lifetime and written some great books. So let's say Pluto in the 10th house, Mars in Gemini, okay, to be recognized for writing a good book. But now imagine the type of life experiences associated with that. Let's just take a famous writer, for instance, Charles Dickens. I don't know much about his past and how it's happened, but just think about the nature of his existence and how he got to be recognized for the books that he's written, okay? And that process, he would have died with those experiences, this impressions on the soul. He comes into another lifetime, he'll be naturally drawn into a family where there will be, a very strong emphasis on intellectual behavior, on books, etc., and probably have one of his books in the bookshelf as well. That's how cool it is, right? So he will naturally reconditioned to believe that and feel that writing and information and so on and so forth is valuable. But then evolution doesn't stop there in that sense and say, well, you kind of have all this information. It goes, we need to change our perspective. We need to offer a different route. So what's more to learn? So this is where the challenges come in, because karma will now put you in a situation where you will be blocked in some way or feel frustrated in some way, or the universe won't support something in some way. And that blockages, depending on how you interact with that, will then force you to make new choices under old circumstances. And then you go along this path and you discover more of what is, more of who you are, more of what creation is. And so this is how our lives, up until a certain point, will work a certain way, probably up until the age of 30. And then all of a sudden we have new desires. We awake to ourselves and we change the path that we go on. And so this is another aspect of astrology and the human condition that is now being revealed to us when we look at the chart through these eyes, through these lenses. That's just one story I've shared with you guys over here, and I've got a multitude of them in my head relative to this idea of trying to move away from looking at the symbolic representation of, the moon in Gemini or the moon in Scorpio, or, I have this on the ascendant, to what is my story? Where do I come from? How have I got here? What has led me to this point? What is my karma? How many times have I done this thing over here and now come to the realization that it's not working for me and now I've got to go that route? Do you see that as you start to look at this over here, this magical spark of transcendental understanding envelops your consciousness and your imagination, and you start to see a whole world that is so much more beautiful than, I have moon in the 8th house, or I have moon in Scorpio, and so therefore I'm, emotionally attachment orientated, and, this is what that means. It's like, no, moon in the 8th house in Scorpio relative to Pluto, relative to this sign, relative to that sign, correlates to somebody that has been feeling loads of abandonment, loads of betrayal. And so your natural psychological behavior as you interact with that can be making choices where you keep on drawing people into your life that force you to have to confront these situations. And they will come across as people that do lie, that do create emotional abandonment, betrayals. Do you see that as we start to unravel the nature of what truth is relative to the Zodiac, that it is not an actual predictive tool, that it's more along the lines of reflecting back to us who we are. And then when we look at the constellations, we look at the symbolic representations, we see, in a sense, who we are and what our story is. And that's an amazing thing to be and to understand. So my first big sort of core idea when doing this video is astrology and the human connection. Let's not forget about us. Let's not forget about our story interacting with the cosmos and it just being a reflection of who we are, right? So, karma, right? Obviously, a lot of us have a very interesting pre-existing pattern of the nature of karma, and it goes around in circles and so on and so forth. Well, yeah, fair enough, but let's take Pluto 10th house, or Pluto in Capricorn, transiting Pluto in Capricorn at this moment in time, and acknowledging what it's doing. It's changing our definitions of how we see our reality, Pluto Capricorn. So let's do this. Let's go karma coming back to us, all these ideas. Let's throw it out the window and let's go, karma is actually a reflection of our inner belief systems associated with what we think reality is, our relationship to reality, our relationship, our truth to, our core belief of something. And then, as we are energetic beings, as we are projectors of our reality to come and explore and understand the contrast of our reality, when we project this core belief unconsciously into our reality, then what do we see? We see it in existence and we go, okay, therefore it must be. And so what happens is that when you keep on drawing the same people into your life relative to this unconscious projection of your pre-existing karma, you draw people into your life that situate and create and prove to you the very essence of your belief system, leaving you in a situation where you constantly just believe that this is how it is. Whereas now that you understand that, or have a sort of clearer association with the nature of you are an inner being reflecting out to yourself the story, and that your karma is an association with a pre-existing belief system relative to your past, then what you're doing is you're just bringing to you your own karma so that you can then work through it by making new choices under pre-existing and old patterns. And so my first thing about astrology, human connection, our stories, and then we attach it to how we actually actualize our karma out into our reality, and people come into our lives as beings that hold space for us to reflect back to us more of what it is that we are trying to teach ourselves, because that's what we're doing. We're teaching ourselves through projecting out into reality our, in a sense, shadow. And this is a very strong Saturn in Scorpio sort of signature at this point in time. Scorpio and Saturn are making a connection, and it's been there since 2010, I believe, 2012, pardon me, where it has been going through collectively our unconscious, and we've been projecting into our realities a lot of our pre-existing patterns. And so we've had to take the shield and the sword and bash through the bush, for instance, trying to understand more of who we are. And how we experience that in our lives is, oh, my reality is breaking, or oh my God, this relationship's not working anymore, or this is not happening for me, or this is not working, and I feel frustrated, and I feel angry, and I feel anxiety. It's because relatively to what is happening now, as the soul and Uranus in Aries, which is the spirit, are coming together, and we're having to align our egos, we're acknowledging the fact that we're actually projecting our own karma into our reality as a reflection of who we are, so that we can find out more of who we are through understanding what it is that we don't like, and then making those conscious choices to move away from that spaces so that we can clear out the karma and we can go along our merry ways in a new sort of refreshed and purified way. So again, astrology and the human connection, this idea of looking at the chart and looking at your soul and looking at these things is so healthy. And not trying to, in a sense, debunk it because it's about prediction, because all of these definitions have been the way that they have relative to the past. Now, again, Pluto in Capricorn is doing this, where it's saying, hey guys, we need to actually understand that how we've defined our reality in the past is creating the very limitations that we are experiencing, because our tools that we're using are only this sharp. So we've got to rectify that. We've got to change that. We've got to look at the perspective that we have and understand more intuitively that it is not just the physical five senses that exist, but there are actually multidimensional forces that are existing with us. And we are it, we are source energy, and we exist within those dimensions. And that when we merge them together, not only can we see the very limitations that we have, we can also overcome them because we're seeing more dimensions of what already is. And that's really cool. That's a really important understanding to have. And I'm just applying that to astrology. And all of a sudden, everybody's going, yeah, this makes sense. And that's really what it is. You know, so I encourage you guys that when you're looking at astrology or trying to understand it or trying to speak about it, to spread the message that this is a tool. This is just a tool that we as human beings can use to interpret our reality and allow us to get more in tune with our egos. Because at the end of the day, whatever method you use to tell your linear logical brain, okay, that there is something greater than itself, okay, whatever you use is a tool. It's a permission slip. It's a hall pass that allows you to, in a sense, connect to something greater than yourself, because the linear logical brain, the Mercury function, the Gemini function, wants to put everything in a logical sense so that it can build stuff and construct stuff. But when we're talking about something that is multidimensional, when we're talking about something that is abstract, when we're talking about something that is metaphysical, the function of the left brain or the linear logical mind, in a sense, cannot make sense of it. It is foreign to it. And so therefore we get to this Neptunian, Piscean 12th house understanding. Okay, but they have to work simultaneously. You cannot just live in the Neptunian world of metaphysics and okay. You have to live with the balance of Mercury. You have to, in a sense, feel your heart. This is what ascension is about, by the way. For anybody of you guys that is waking up, you're waking up to your heart and what it demands and what it needs. Okay, so you're living from this place. Your soul is saying to you, your spirit is saying to you, hey, I love this stuff. And then you send the impulse to the brain, and then the brain goes, okay, I'm going to put this into reality in terms of, you know, under reading, writing, listening, etc., etc. You know, the physical senses, and they have to be balanced. And so this is a really strong message that I'm trying to give here, again, with astrology and the human connection. The human connection is the physical senses. This is my form. I exist on earth. But then astrology, in a sense, will allow you to connect to something greater than yourself, something higher than yourself, and align that so that you walk the earth with your soul's purpose, using the ego as a healthy tool, a healthy left brain, as it were, function. So that's a really, really important thing to understand relative to this message over here. Okay, all right, guys. So I think I've covered some really, really deep aspects relative to this. I'm going to continue going on with this process because I think, to be honest, this is a message that is not finished. I'm going to put a dot over here and continue with this video series, you know, in a later stage. But I really, really, really want you guys to really ground yourself in what I've shared with you in this video over here, because there's a lot of information that kind of like needs to be digested and also integrated into your reality so that you can find that alignment process that is so desperately needed at this point in time for us. Okay. All right, so just to end off with my videos over here, thank you so much to every single person that has subscribed and written your wonderful comments. I am eternally grateful for you guys listening to me. Of course, I can't do this on my own. I've got so much support around me as well. A lot of the stuff that I actually share with you guys over here is also me interacting with my partner as well. So, you know, she kind of gets me into that vortex of creation and excitement, and then I come share this information with you guys. So you know, gratitude all around to every single person as well. If you've liked the content, please share it and you know, press the like and subscribe button. Check out more of what I do on my channel, and you know, look out for any of my forecasts that I do. Sometimes I do them on a weekly basis, sometimes I do it on a monthly basis. It will depend on obviously the nature of what the planetary alignments are doing at this point in time. And yeah, lastly, obviously, if you are interested in working with me as an astrologer, please, you know, come over to my website, simonvorster.com, send me an email with your story and with your birth data, and book a reading with myself. All my prices are on my website. I feel that they're relatively good in terms of the service that I do offer, and I highly encourage you guys to do that. I've helped lots of people help themselves, really, because all I'm doing is just reflecting back to them something that they innately know. They just need to be reminded of that. So come over to my site and obviously check out my stuff over there. And until then, guys, thank you so much and have a fantastic evening.